We all know meat is a delicious source of protein, but what about the whispers of a link to cancer? Today, we're diving into a topic that's been sizzling on everyone's plate: red meat, processed meat, and cancer risk. This isn't new. Researchers have been grilling this question for decades. We'll be looking at a recent review by Farvid et al., published in 2021, that analyzed 148 studies to see what's on the menu. Well, then, let's separate the sizzle from the science. Before we dig in, let's differentiate our players. Red meat is your classic beef, lamb, pork, goat, mutton, or horse meat. It's the muscle we enjoy. Processed meat takes things a step further. Think hot dogs, bacon, sausages, and deli meats. Anything that's been cured, smoked, or preserved with nitrites and nitrates. These processes add flavor and shelf life, but might also impact health. For this study, the researchers reviewed 148 prospective studies that discussed relationships of red and processed meat intake with cancer up to December 2020. Think of a prospective study as a crystal ball for science. Researchers recruit a large group of healthy people with no history of cancer. They then gather information about their current diet, particularly red meat intake. Here's the key: the participants haven't experienced the potential cause, which is high red meat intake, yet. The beauty of a prospective study is that researchers follow these participants forward in time, sometimes for years or even decades. During this period, they monitor their health and track any cancer diagnoses. By comparing the red meat intake of those who develop cancer with those who don't, researchers can see if a high red meat diet is associated with an increased risk. It's important to remember that a prospective study doesn't necessarily prove cause and effect. Other factors can influence cancer risk. However, it can reveal trends and associations. The researchers calculated the relative risk of developing cancer based on intake of 100 grams of red meat per day and 50 grams of processed meat per day in order to test how the quantity of meat eaten affects the risk of developing cancer. Relative risk is like a comparison tool. It tells you how much more likely someone is to experience an outcome, like cancer, if they're exposed to a certain factor, like high red meat intake, compared to someone who isn't exposed. People that ate the highest amount of red meat had a higher risk of developing breast cancer, endometrial cancer, colorectal cancer, colon cancer, rectal cancer, lung cancer, and hepatocellular carcinoma. To put this into context, the analysis showed that for each 100 grams per day of red meat eaten, it was associated with an 11% higher risk of breast cancer, a 14% higher risk of colorectal cancer, a 17% higher risk of colon cancer, a 26% higher risk of rectal cancer, and a 29% higher risk of lung cancer. For processed red meat, eating 50 grams per day was associated with a 16% higher risk of colorectal cancer, a 17% higher risk of colon cancer, same a 25% higher risk of rectal cancer, and an 8% higher risk of renal cell cancer. When the two types of red meat were added together, eating 100 grams of total and processed red meat was associated with 12% higher risk of endometrial cancer, an 18% higher risk of colorectal cancer, a 25% higher risk of colon cancer, a 25% higher risk of rectal cancer, and a 35% higher risk of lung cancer. So, is there an association between eating red meat and processed meat? The evidence shows that eating high quantities of red and processed meat increases one's risk of developing breast, colorectal, colon, rectal, renal cell, lung, endometrial, and hepatocellular cancers. The strongest evidence exists for colorectal cancer and lung cancer. At this point, you may be wondering how or even why red meat seems to have a harmful effect as far as cancer is concerned. Well, you are not alone. There is still a lot of investigation going on to find out how red meat in its processed and unprocessed form increases risk of developing different forms of cancer. The current theories have stronger evidence for the following. 1. Nitrates and nitrites. These are preservatives that are used in processed meats. During digestion, these preservatives can be converted into N-nitroso compounds by some bacteria. These compounds might damage the lining of the colon, increasing cancer risk over time. 2. Iron overload. Red meat is rich in iron. Our bodies need iron, but too much can damage cells and potentially contribute to cancer risk. Red meat is also linked to higher levels of inflammation in our bodies. Chronic inflammation is a known risk factor for cancer. 3. HCAs and PCAs. High heat cooking methods like grilling or frying meat can create harmful chemicals called HCAs, heterocyclic amines, and PCAs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These can also contribute to cancer risk. In the 1998 analysis of the Iowa Women's Health Study by Zhang et al. That investigated the impact of meat doneness on cancer risk, they reported that women who consistently ate very well done meat, such as beefsteak, bacon, and hamburgers, was associated with a 4.62 increased risk of breast cancer compared to people that ate their meat medium or rare done. As you can see, cooking methods matter. Consider healthier options like baking, stewing, or poaching for your meat to reduce the formation of potentially harmful products. 4. Antibiotics use. Let's not forget about the antibiotics used in raising animals for meat. These antibiotics can mess with our gut bacteria, which is important for our overall health and immune system. This disruption can also contribute to cancer risk. Ever thought about how antibiotics in meat could affect you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 5. Insulin resistance. Eating a lot of animal protein, especially from meat, can increase the risk of something called insulin resistance. This is when your body doesn't respond well to insulin, a hormone that helps control your blood sugar. Insulin resistance is linked to a higher risk of several types of cancer, including breast and colorectal cancer. 6. Hormones in meat. Many animals raised for meat in the US are given growth hormones to help them grow faster. One common hormone, estradiol 17-CV, has been linked to an increased risk of breast and endometrial cancer. These hormones can also play a role in the development of prostate cancer. So, eating meat from animals treated with hormones might increase your cancer risk. 7. Telomere length. Lastly, there's something called telomeres, which are protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes. Eating a lot of red and processed meat has been linked to shorter telomeres. Shorter telomeres can lead to chromosomal instability and higher cancer risk. What should we take away from this review? It doesn't mean you need to completely give up red or processed meats, but it does suggest that moderation is key. Meat can be a valuable source of nutrients, in particular protein, iron, zinc, and vitamin B12. Unless it is added in your diet through taking of supplements, vitamin B12 is only found in animal-based products like red meat. Plus, red meat provides the highest quantity and quality of iron and protein compared to plant-based sources. The World Cancer Research Fund International recommends that those who eat red meat should limit their consumption to no more than 3 portions per week, which is equivalent to around 350 to 500 grams or about 12 to 18 ounces cooked weight. Here are a few tips to help you reduce your intake. 1. Try meatless Mondays. Dedicate at least 1 day a week to plant-based meals. 2. Explore meat alternatives. There are plenty of delicious plant-based meat alternatives out there. Consider trying them out and finding the best ones for you and incorporate them into your diet. 3. Balance your plate. Fill half your plate with fruits and veggies, a quarter with whole grains, and a quarter with protein. If you're concerned about your personal risk, talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian or nutritionist. They can help you create a balanced diet that's delicious and nutritious. thanks for joining the conversation. The science of food and health is a never-ending recipe. We'll continue exploring more sizzling discoveries in future videos. Let us know in the comments what other food and health topics you'd like us to explore. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more science-based explorations delivered straight to your plate. I mean, screen.